Hi everyone, welcome to Starsight. Today we are going to channel some messages about an area of your life where you feel that growth hasn't been happening for a while. You may be feeling frustrated, you may have been working very hard in that area and feel that the results are just not forming, or you're not receiving what you expected to receive in this area. Specifically, I want you to think about an area where you have been working very hard and are not seeing results. Okay. Now, spiritually, often stagnation in the external world, like not receiving results, there is usually some great purpose and wisdom in that delay. So hopefully today we'll get a little bit of insight into what the delay could mean for you spiritually. Because at the egoic level, we may get really impatient, but at the spiritual level, there may be a lot in the delay that could be in your favor, or could be extracting the kind of learning from you that you couldn't have received otherwise. Sorry, I tend to move around a lot. I am not usually very comfortable just stationary, and my tripod, or whatever you call this contraption that holds the phone to film the reading, is very wobbly. So every time I move, it also moves. So if you're watching this, sometimes it can feel a little vertiginous, and I'm sorry about that. All right, so pick your pile and I'll see you at your reading. The Time Master, Magic, and Wild Woman. All right, pile 1, the Time Master. Yeah, you're waiting on a very big cycle to conclude positively. I feel like you've already gone through several rounds of learning, graduating certain lessons. You are in a state of mastery when it comes to something, and still that the cycle is not really ending. It feels like someone who's already detached from the cycle. Let's say that you've been working on separating from a partner. Now, you've gone through several rounds of learning, several rounds of separation, because it takes time, right? You've done a lot of letting go, you've done a lot of releasing, you've done a lot of understanding, inner work. Gone through it, but it's still like something is missing. Something is that final key is not available to you, or you feel that everything is done, but still actually at the level of the material world, the separation is not taking place. So the cycle is not ending, though everything according to you is in place, or you think that some key is missing. But you're already detached, which is why it can feel a little bit, it can feel very strange to continue living in a cycle that you've detached from, We're going to have a slightly shorter reading today, pile 1. But I hope that you'll still get the messages that you get the messages that you need today. Codes of the Seeds. The blueprint is within you. Take the next step. The Bloom. Creations realized. Right time. Harvest. Celebrate. The Return, a new story. You decide alignment, it's coming together. Okay, so the first thing for you to know is that it's a matter of timing. something new is getting prepared for you. Okay, especially in the area that the cycle belongs to. So if it's love, it's career, it's your health, it can be anything. In that area, a new story is being prepared for you. But if you're released from this cycle too early, that transition period might be very hard for you, or maybe very confusing for you. So you're being stopped from releasing this particular thing completely until that other thing is ready. Your guides are saying that you need to start living. Okay, this is what's happening. You have detached, you have released the cycle, but it's not ending. And so you might have self-doubt. Is this not really over? Have I not done everything I need to do? Your guides are saying you have done everything you need to do, and you need to start living in that knowledge that yes, from your side, it's done. And whatever else needs to be done, it's not you. You don't have to do anything now. You can simply surrender in the knowing that you've done everything you need to do. You can actually start preparing to leave, properly leave. But again, like any kind of expectations you might have about whatever is now coming in, be careful about those expectations. Don't run away with your fantasies. Stay anchored in this ending. Okay? Whatever hope you feel, whatever freedom you feel, just revel in that. The new thing is coming though. I feel also that, in this period, it's already a transition period, though it may not appear like that to you. It's already a transition period, and during this period, you're supposed to rest. You know what this feels like? Like if you were to exit from this cycle right now, you would immediately want to establish the new cycle. You would immediately want to, like, let's say if I'm moving out of the house that I've lived in with my partner for 17 years, then that the new place, I want to immediately make it into a home. I want to find it in a place, that I can live in for the rest of my life. Like, it is not going to be these are not going to be simple decisions. These are going to be big decisions that I have to make. I keep pausing, Palwan, because it feels like I'm waiting for something to come in, and that this could be your energy. Like you're waiting on something. Even though you feel nothing for this cycle anymore, it's done. It's really done. Anyway, what I was saying is that you're being protected from the busyness of the new, and you should take this time to rest as much as you can, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Let's see if we can get a little bit insight into this feeling of waiting for something to happen. The smoky mirror, the owl, the beloved. The owl and the smoky mirror are sort of on the surface paradoxical energies, but not spiritually. So the smoky mirror is understanding that everything in our life is a mirror of our inner world, but it's not always a literal inner mirror. Yeah. So let's say that if someone slaps me, it doesn't mean that literally inside of me there is someone needing to be slapped. We make this mistake often when we're dealing with the spiritual concept of mirroring. We treat it as a literal mirroring, whereas it is a distorted mirroring. So I might be looking for a parent figure unconsciously, and then someone comes and slaps me. And in my mind, the parent is someone who has authority over me. In my mind, the parent is someone who can take arbitrary decisions over my bodily sovereignty. So it's not like I'm looking for a slap, it's like I'm looking for the safety of a parent. But for whatever reason, my understanding of the parent is that they're not always kind and loving and safe. The owl is about seeing clearly. So the smoky mirror and the owl together means that you've learned to see the mirroring around you accurately. Like it's like when you're in front of a distorted surface, you have to learn to read the distortions so that you can get to the image behind the distortions, or you can at least guess what the clear image could look like. Or even just staying with the distortions would give you so much insight. And you've done that. Pile 1, you've done that. These are cards of immense achievement. The beloved is love in the true sense. Love in the unconditional sense, where you are not involved in any kind of attachment. It's just purely trust in the other's path. I think this is the final piece, pile 1. You've let this cycle go, but you feel a lot of love for what you've left behind. And this confuses you because you think, does this mean I should stay? This is the final key. No, pile 1. Your love is not about you staying. Your love is just something pure that you've extracted out of the situation. It's a distillation of everything you've learned. It doesn't mean that the cycle is not over. It doesn't mean that you need to stay. You're free to leave. I mean, free to leave when the right circumstances arise. Like when the new thing is ready for you, you'll experience a natural exit point. But apart from that timing thing, there is nothing else that is keeping you here. See some final messages. Ancestral messages, connection, belonging, ask for help, boundary stones, negotiations, contracts, communication. This is a huge cycle that you've ended, and it also has some bearing on your ancestral line. So either you've ended a big ancestral pattern, or you are now ready to shoulder some of the ancestral purpose after the cycle is over. Yeah, it does feel like you're ready. Like you may or may not have ended a pattern, but you're definitely ready now to assume some of the purpose and mission that the ancestral line has. As you exit this cycle, as it finally nears its end, you're going to find a lot of people, a lot of energies getting attracted to you. Okay, it's like you're going to be a beacon of light, and when you're available for a new cycle, a lot of people will energetically feel it and be drawn towards you. You are advised by your guides to be very careful about who you let in. In the moment, it might feel really flattering, like I've just only exited this and look at how many opportunities are opening up for me. That is true, pile 1, but you want to be discerning about the opportunities that come in. So be very mindful of your boundaries, be slow and discerning in your decisions about who to work with, who to partner up with, who to let in, who to share your energy with. But whatever's coming, it's a whole new era of life. It's at a totally different level than the life you were living. So if this cycle is professional, like you have let go of a job or you're waiting to leave, then whatever's now coming in terms of your professional life is at a totally different level. So your stagnation has only to do with timing. It has nothing to do with you needing to do anything more. And also that the love you feel for whatever you're leaving behind, that is just a distillation of everything you've learned. It is not an indication that there is more to this story. All right, pile 1, that's your message. I'm sending you love. Pile 2, magic. You're not focused at the moment. There could be a lot of fantasying, daydreaming happening. It's a person, it's an energy who understands the value of altered states, altered mental states. It's not substance fueled, but fantasy fueled. Like you understand that that's a very powerful way of exploring the world of your desires, the world of your needs. But you may have been experiencing a lot of intense fantasy about one part of your life, not understanding why it's just been fantasy for all this time. Like, why have you not been able to act, or why has life not responded to your energy of wanting? There is a gap between the depth of your fantasy and then what you see in reality. And for a long time, you may have trusted the depth of your fantasy as the sign that this is real, that this is going to come in. But it hasn't. And you are wondering if this time, because I think you've done this in the past, you have reached a particular moment in reality through fantasy, but this time you're wondering if you've gone too far in the fantasy world, if you're actually now untethered from reality in some sense. We're going to have a shorter reading than usual, pile 2, but I hope that you will get the messages you need today. The sacred union, beloved within, inner and outer relationships. Yeah, this could very much be about your love life. Release the petals, transformation, death and rebirth, shedding, all change. The fertile void. Inner winter, rest, patience, potency, secret beginnings. Your guidance is very clear, pile 2, and I love that. I love it when that happens, because often guidance is complex and requires patient interpretation. But then once in a while, the guidance is just very direct, very straightforward, and it's easier for me to just relay it. So your guides are saying you need to take a break from the fantasy world. Now, this is not because of what you suspect, that you've wandered too far into fantasy and you're untethered from reality. That is not true. It's just that you've reached a particular point in your fantasy where retreating is going to help you. How do I explain this? So whatever you're fantasizing about, it's not that is unreal. It is real in some sense. But there is some wounding coming up for you. Okay, so right now your fantasies are bound to your wounds. For example, let's say that my wounding is that I did not experience a secure environment as a child, And so my fantasy then is that I am going to be in an environment where there is no threat, where no one wants to harm me, where everyone has goodwill towards me, where everyone is open towards me, where there are no projections of fantasy, of greed or jealousy or aggression, where I'm just able to be myself in a full way, in a natural, organic way. So that fantasy, like it's a good fantasy. Like, yeah, I want that, but it is tied to my wounding. Now, what I could do instead of fantasizing about a good environment is I could release the wound of the bad environment. I could release the wound of having grown up in an unreliable or threatening environment. I would have to face those fears. I would have to go back to those times, let those feelings move through my body. If I'm able to release that wound, then I'm going to be able to fantasize from a very different place. I'm going to be able to experience freedom at the level of my mind to generate scenarios that are kind of really truly open, where I can actually exercise my imagination and come up with a scenario or come up with a dream that I could have never even thought to dream. Yeah, so that's what your guides are saying right now, that there is some wounding coming up, that what you need to investigate is why are you dreaming this particular dream? You know, what wound is driving the shape of your current fantasy? Work on the wound for the time being. The fantasy world will get back to itself in a while, but for now, you're guided to work on your wound. Look at these beautiful cards. I love all of these three cards. The fertile void. As you work on the wound, you're going to be very surprised by the boom that you feel at the level of fantasy, because suddenly you'll be unfettered, you'll be free to dream up whatever it is that you can dream. Then it's going to be about your capacity to dream rather than your coping mechanism of dealing with your wound. Yeah, there is a lot of liberation tied to the wounds that are driving your fantasy. Pile 2. The Rainmaker. This is a kind of manifestation card in this deck. The Ghost Dance. It's about ancestors. And the Earth. You know, I am not a person who advocates or even functions with the concept of manifestation as it is generally explained and practiced in the new age world right now. However, I'm just going to relay the messages that are coming in here. So you might be a person who is into manifestation, but it seems like you're in a very you have a very balanced view of manifestation. It's not like, okay, I'm just going to dream my dream and it's going to come. You understand that the dream must be accompanied with practical nourishment. Like you have to practically move towards the dream that you're dreaming. You're very good with both aspects of this, and you may have achieved a lot of success before with dreaming and then also acting. Whereas in this current situation, it feels like there's no space for you to act. You can only dream. It feels spectral, because after a while, if you're just dreaming and not acting, it can start feeling like you're in a whole like this, like you're a ghost. You're in a ghost world where everything in your mind is real and true, but you don't see any of it anywhere around you. So your guides are saying that at this point, you may think that there's no space to act because you're thinking of acting as acting in the external world, whereas the acting that you need to do is internal, which is working on the wounds that are driving the fantasy. Lay it on the altar, hand it over, soften, surrender, forgive. The sanctuary, harmony and balance, joy, contentment. Yeah, I think that it's going to be hard for you to back out of the fantasy world right now. As in, it's going to be hard for you to retreat from it and just observe it or investigate what wound is driving it. Because you found so much peace in it. Whatever fantasy it is that you've nurtured over all this time, it feels like it's really big this time. You know, you may have manifested things in the past, but what you are working on right now, it feels very big, Pile 2. It feels like this is the event of your life. If this comes through, this is going to be the event of your life. And it feels like you've invested in this over years. So over the years, this has become such a place of peace and contentment for you, such a sanctuary for you, that having to retreat from it could feel like you're stepping out of a safe space, that you don't have your own space anymore, like you're homeless psychically. Your guides are saying though that you need to do this. Because what's happened also, yes, your fantasy world is a true sanctuary, but you've also gotten somewhat addicted to it. And that addiction is fueled not by authentic desire, but by a wound. It says forgive here, so I'm guessing that whatever wound you're called to investigate right now is about feeling, about someone having either violated you, your sense of self, or they've done something violent to you. Something violent has happened to you. And that's been driving this particular fantasy world. Something unjust has happened to you. Yeah, there's a lot coming through Pile 2 about what the wound could be. I'm not going into the details today. It'll have to be short today. I'm sorry about that. But if this is your pile, you already know what I'm talking about. So, take a step or two back from your fantasy for the time being. Work on your wounding. This is a big thing you're working on, my dear. And addressing the wounds here will only help you get to a much purer and clearer vision of what you want. It'll also be a dream that is more liberated than before. A dream where you can truly reach for the stars. Like you don't have to be bound to the limits of reality. All the best with this Pile 2. Sending you love. Pile 3, wild woman. This feels like an energy who sort of romanticizes or idealizes the notion of freedom. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. I know that these words sound judgmental, romanticizing, idealizing, but I don't mean it in that sense. You enjoy it. Maybe, you follow the concept of the divine feminine or the wild feminine. You connect to stories about people breaking out of their mental and material prisons. The stagnation here, though, is that it's like your concept of freedom hasn't changed in years. It's like you're holding on to a particular notion of freedom that needs upgrading. As we evolve, our principles also evolve. And freedom can continue to be one of the principles you live by, but it would still need to evolve at the conceptual level, and it hasn't. You could be feeling this stagnation very much intellectually, where as a habit you keep reaching for the same stories of wildness and freedom and creativity, but then realize that they're not nourishing you anymore. But then again, like next day, again you reach for the same thing. Again you figure out, this is not nourishing me. Again, I feel like this in itself might be an insight for you, that you don't need to let go of freedom as a value, as a principle. It's just that you need to let your understanding of what freedom is evolve. There is something in you that's held on to a particular notion as a form of safety, which is ironic, right? Because wildness is not about safety. Wildness is about letting go. Wildness is about facing the dangers of all that is, and still holding on to the immense value of being free. Because most people choose something other than freedom out of fear. And the wild woman chooses freedom in the face of fear. But something in you, there's a shadow here in your attachment to freedom that's actually found safety in the notion of freedom. It could be something like you don't commit romantically, or you like being a consultant or a freelancer rather than get a regular job, or you like living in different places, so you're moving constantly. And again, like there's something really authentic about the way in which you are claiming and exercising your freedom, and at the same time there could also be a shadow there where you're not committing to relationships because you want to be free, but also because you're scared of commitment, or you are a freelancer because you want to be free, but also because you're scared of being stifled in an institutional environment. There's some fear, some shadow, some attachment to safety here. The Great Mother, surrender to the mystery, fall into her arms. Lineage of the rose, moved by the goddess, here for this soul call, gather. The anointed, answer the call, leadership, empowerment, soul gifts. You're being called, pile 3, to activate the other side of the freedom that you crave, or the freedom that you've lived by. Like as an experiment, your guides are saying that you need to face the thing that is scaring you. So if commitment scares you, try it. If being in a regular job scares you, try it. Why? Because that is the way to actually get to the freedom that you seek, by facing your fear. It's not that they're saying, oh, don't worry, like, try commitment, you might actually like it, that's what you're looking for. No, it might as well be the thing that you don't like, like you get a regular job and you realize, I was right, this is not for me. But it's like you would have faced it and you would have come to that conclusion through hard facts. Whereas right now it feels like the fear and the avoidance are such that you don't even want to actually try it, or something in you is saying, but what if that's not true? Something in you is needing empirical evidence. And you'll get to that by actually trying the thing that scares you. That is really the way that you're going to unlock a whole new, upgraded version of freedom, of wildness. The spiral. The staff. By the way, I said this in other pies, but forgot to tell you that today the reading is going to be shorter than usual. But I really hope that you get the messages that you need. The staff and the drum. These are all very divine symbols here. The spiral, the staff, the drum, these are all like symbols of being a conduit for the divine in this particular reality. It's like the spiral is about knowing that all versions of us are one. The staff is about navigating your way through the forest of life by connecting to the divine. It's like holding the staff steady, and the staff will turn where you need to go, and then you follow that, letting the divine lead you. And the drum is actually about bringing the divine to earth, grounding it in earth. With the drum, the skin of the drum is about the lower world, and the vibrations that are produced are of the upper world, the celestial world. These cards are affirming your intuitive connection with the idea of freedom, with the archetype, in fact, of wildness. But your guides are saying you need to really go for it. You really need to find your freedom in a context of density. It's like, let's say that someone is working really hard on their health. They're eating all the right things and they're staying in a very clean environment to take care of their health. But it's only when they expose themselves to the ordinary world, it's only when they start living with other people who are eating junk all the time, that we are going to actually be able to conclude whether their habits of staying healthy have truly created a strong immunity, or was that a function of keeping their world really sanitized. It's only when you allow yourself to enter the regular world that you figure out what you're really made of. So you've isolated yourself for a good amount of time, cultivating your spiritual resources, cultivating your connection to wildness. But it is time to come back to civilization, as it were. And in the middle of all of that ho-hum, find your wildness. Like in the middle of all of those germs, you make your immunity true. This is so powerful and beautiful, pile 3. Let's see, wisdom keeper, a new perspective, study and learning, dancing with stones, movement, teamwork, partnership. Exactly. You're being called to partner with the world that is not free. Partner with the world that is bound. In that partnership, you will find your true freedom. But also you will find if the freedom that you've been living by, is it really true, or has it just been a kind of avoidance? As you move through this particular lesson of your life, you're going to unlock a lot of soul wisdom here. It's also possible that you start teaching others what freedom is, because until now you could have, again, a very idealistic understanding of freedom. But after this, you can start teaching others what a grounded understanding of freedom is, what a grounded movement towards freedom is. Because everyone is not just purely free, everyone is in different degrees of being bound. And I think you're going to be able to teach others to find freedom wherever they are. Even if they're extremely bound, even if they're in circumstances that are very, very difficult, like I'm thinking of people caught in war zones. Imagine talking to them about freedom. So you would be teaching, I think, as you move through this lesson, that even people in war zones, even for them, it is possible to move towards freedom of some kind. Now, I don't know what that is. I think you are going to figure it out for all of us. Because I genuinely cannot imagine it, but this is the message here. That you're going to figure out how to teach others to move towards freedom, even if they are in a very, very difficult situation. That on the surface feels like it's the epitome of being bound. This is beautiful, pile 3. All the best with it. I'm sending you love.